Good morning. Welcome to Metro's third annual State of the Agency. We're pleased you could be here today to help us take a look back at the last 12 months and to also look ahead to the coming year. My name is Yvette Repose. I am Metro's Chief Communications Officer. And once again, I have the honor of serving as the MC for today's event. I'd like to begin by welcoming all of the Metro employees and all of our stakeholders, partners, community members, and customers joining us virtually around the county and from their homes. I also want to express a warm welcome to members of the media. Some are joining us online, others are actually here in the Metro boardroom in person, wearing masks and social distancing, of course. And finally, please join me in extending a warm welcome to our Metro board members and our visionary leader, Metro Chief Executive Officer, Philip A. Washington. While most people are joining us remotely, CEO Washington, Mayor Butts, and Mayor Garcetti are here in person. We'll hear from each of them shortly. This morning begins a passing of the gavel. As of July 1, Metro's current first Vice Chair, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti, will become the new Metro Board Chair. Mayor Garcetti is a fourth-generation Angelino and the 42nd Mayor of Los Angeles. He was born and raised in the San Fernando Valley, the son of public servants, and the grandson and great-grandson of immigrants from Mexico and Eastern Europe. Mayor Garcetti's life has been shaped by deep commitment to the core values of justice, dignity, and equality for all people. We are proud and grateful to welcome him as the incoming board chair. We'll hear Mayor Garcetti speak about his goals for the coming year in a moment. We will also hear from Metro's CEO, Philip A. Washington. Phil has been a champion of public transit, a tireless advocate for Los Angeles County, a spirited warrior for equity and inclusion, and a friend and mentor to many of us at Metro. Phil is someone Mayor Garcetti called the leading transit executive, not just in America, but in the world. Phil will recap the past year and talk about the year ahead. But our first speaker today is our current board chair, City of Inglewood, Mayor James T. Butts Jr., who will soon be known as past board chair. Mayor Butts has 45 years of public safety and municipal government experience. He has held the rank of the general manager or assistant general manager of 4 large and complex municipal organizations over the past 32 years. He served 19 years in the Inglewood Police Department, rising to the rank of deputy chief, 15 years as a chief of police for the city of Santa Monica, and 5 years as the assistant general manager for the Los Angeles World Airports, in charge of public safety and counterterrorism. So without further ado, to kick off today's State of the Agency, please give a warm welcome to Metro's board chair, the Mayor of Inglewood, James T. Butts.
Thank you. I want to thank you for that introduction, but all it tends to prove is that I can't maintain stable employment. I have to tell you, this is surreal, this transfer of authority for the chairmanship of the board with a curtain and no people. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz right now, and this is going to be something I'll always remember. After 5 years on the Metro board, I was given the privilege and responsibility of becoming chair. And I have to tell you that my predecessors made it look extremely easy. However, I soon came to realize that it's not, but I've enjoyed each and every moment and learned so much from it. In assessing my chairmanship year, I want to bifurcate it into 2 segments. First, the normal year in and year out administrative chairmanship functions. And secondly, navigating through 2 almost concurrent major and fast-moving crises. So let's take a moment to touch on some of the pleasant events that I've enjoyed as Metro's representative. I had the pleasure of participating in the Metro Forum on accelerating corporate and private investment in social infrastructure in Los Angeles. I attended the PV Jobs 21st Annual Recognition Luncheon. Each year, PV Jobs honors local city dignitaries, construction industry influencers, and this year's keynote address was delivered by then LA City Council President Herb Wesson Jr. PV Jobs' mission is to place Los Angeles' disadvantaged population, those coming out of homelessness, welfare, or incarceration, into career track employment. I was also very pleased to attend the Women's Business Summit. My welcoming remarks focused on Metro's programs that help women and explained why working with women-owned small businesses has special challenges and is vitally important. In early November, we celebrated the A, formerly known as the Blue Line, renovation and reopening, and welcomed passengers back with 3 days of free rides on the Metro line. We broke new ground with having 3 simultaneous opening venues with Mayors Garcetti and Garcia of Long Beach and other board members, and had the pleasure and thrill of having Snoop Dogg as the MC. The $350 million new Blue project was part of Metro's ongoing State of Good Repair program to provide more reliable service and state-of-the-art improvements along the 22-mile line. I also attended the Women's Transportation Seminar Annual Scholarship and Awards Dinner and spoke about career paths for women in transportation. The WTS is an international organization that attracts, sustains, connects, and advances women's careers to strengthen the transportation industry. I then participated in the Metro Aging and Disability Transportation Forum to discuss transportation services for older adults and people with disabilities based on the Metro Annual Accessibility Report. Reviewing programs being implemented by Metro and access services to address the transportation needs of older adults and people with disabilities, and to explore potential, and I should have said assess services, and to explore potential enhancements to address unmet needs. A major highlight was Metro's 5th annual celebration of excellence in the workplace, our employees event. I want to sincerely thank all of those who were able to participate in this celebration of excellence in our workplace. It was an all-hands attendance, and it was a magnificent award ceremony. It was truly awesome to see over 1,000 Metro employees gathered at the historic Orpheum Theater. In addition to the on-site event, Metro also provided access to employees via live stream at all of our divisions. We got it to most every desktop in the organization, and it made me proud, very proud, to be the chair. We had fun attending the Metro Ciclavia, South LA Space Shuttle Endeavor Route, Open Streets Kickoff event. The event opened up our streets in South LA for a 6-mile route connecting South Central, Florence Firestone, and Watts. People biked, skated, ran, walked, skateboarded, so you can enjoy the event with whatever your favorite transportation mode was. Now let's turn our attention away from the events. I'm also proud to have been chair as Metro has been able to achieve a variety of accomplishments and milestones. We celebrated 2 major Purple Line milestones. In March, we signed the federal full funding grant agreement for Section 3, and just this week, Metro announced the completion of decking for the planned Beverly Hills subway station 7 months ahead of schedule. 7 months. Every pandemic has a silver lining. Adopting the Metro Climate and Adaptation Plan, and it's leading us into a responsible future. We also completed the How Women Travel study. Thanks to Supervisor Kuehl's leadership and all of our fellow colleagues on the board, Metro is leading the way to make public transportation not only safer for women, but for everyone. We ordered 369 CNG and zero-emission buses, with the first electric buses to be delivered later this month. Once again, Metro continues to be in the forefront of sustainable public transportation. We made a 10-year review of potential changes in Measure R ordinance and the Measure R transfer amendment language. In a nutshell, this is an important milestone, especially for the South Bay cities, as it allows reprogramming of highway transportation funds to mass transit endeavors, and it can only occur once every 10 years. We implemented the Next Gen Transit Study and Implementation Plan. We redesigned Metro's regional bus service to better serve the needs of current transit riders, and almost immediately, we adapted the study recommendations to reflect that service in a safer at work world. Well, we then had to rise to the challenge of COVID-19, the safer at home response. When I took chair last July, none of us could ever imagine what we would be facing in the months to come. The pandemic came upon us like a tsunami, and our Metro CEO and staff were faced with an unprecedented array of decisions that had to be made timely and effectively. A 75 to 85% drop in ridership. We now had to worry about a different type of protection for our riders, protecting our bus operators, and this led to a safety and social distancing response, including backdoor boarding only and the non-enforcement of fares. A system-wide service reduction matrix that used the modified Sunday schedule. We took prolific steps in cleaning and sanitizing bus and rail environments to a degree that we never dreamed would be necessary. At the same time, in the management and administration area of our leadership, our team faced the problems of the dramatic loss in revenues of upwards of $1.8 billion, including fare box and sales tax revenues. Seeking federal funding in the CARES Act, adopting the continuing resolution budget, implementing an essential service recovery plan, right-sizing Metro services for the safer at home and safer at work phases, initiating the Mobility and Affordability Action Plan to guide a responsible and effective service level once riders return to Metro buses and trains. And then we were all faced with confronting a senseless and horrific tragedy, acknowledging the underlying systemic national cancer that led to it. There was an outpouring of grief and anger that manifested itself in mass protests throughout the city, the nation, and the world. In navigating these circumstances, I endeavored to maintain continual communications and support of the CEO. Given the rapidly unfolding and changing circumstances, Phil Washington had to make many decisions on the fly based on the safety of operators, the public, and in the context of existing mutual aid agreements with other agencies. While there has been some criticism of some decisions that were made, in all instances, our CEO endeavored to act responsibly and decisively, and he should be commended for that. And in turn, we were able to respond flexibly and quickly when decisions needed to be changed or revised. Leadership is not always about being right. It's about understanding and correcting your course of action, even when it seems a better decision could be made. Going forward, this board and entire organization are embarking on what we all hope will be an extraordinary period of lasting change. We want to foster a vibrant and equitable economic system and create opportunities for people to achieve their dreams. The last 12 days have showed us that's extremely necessary if we're going to maintain the fabric of our society. As a society, we need to use this tragedy as an opportunity, as an epiphany, not only about law enforcement, but about society as a whole. The entirety of the criminal justice system, from law enforcement, prosecution, and adjudication, but before that, the provision of equity and opportunity for everyone. As a society, we need to express more empathy and love for one another. That's very clear. Going through the pandemic and the resulting economic meltdown, we will all come out of this, and we should all be grateful for every day. In closing, I'm proud of the past year I've spent as the Metro Board Chair, very proud of the Metro family, and equally proud to be handling the gavel and responsibility back over to Mayor Garcetti, who has done this job before. He will again take the reins, and he will continue to move us forward. I want to thank everybody for your support during my time as chair. It's been an experience of a lifetime. Thank you very much. Now, okay, all right. Okay. T.
Well, good morning and thank you, Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge the leadership and dedication of our outgoing board chair, Butts, and his entire team. In fact, I have a token of appreciation I'd like to present on behalf of LA Metro's 11,000 employees. Mayor, please accept this plaque that
It's coming.
that is coming. Thank you so much for your dedication and service.
Thank you, sir.
All right. And let me also say this is always a team effort. The mayor's team is top notch. They're a pleasure to work with. So I want to acknowledge their essential contributions over the past year. I'd ask them to come up one by one to receive a token of our appreciation. And first, we have Tanisha Johnson. What would the mayor do without her? Thank you for being such an essential and cordial and collaborative member of the team. Thank you. All right. Steve Lance and Mike Bulkey. Mike and Steve. We appreciate both of them and their collegial and collaborative nature.
Who's
Steve
Steve
Lance
Lance?
first. Do a picture.
I don't know.
All right. And of course, Mike Bulkey. Thank you for all that you do.
Michael, thank you.
And lastly, I want to call up Letty Lacombe.
Hey.
Invaluable part of the team as well. Letty, absolutely. Thank you.
These some nice clothes.
So everyone, please join me in thanking outgoing board chair Butts and his staff, please. And of course, we look forward to another year of visionary leadership and dedication from Mayor Garcetti. We'll hear from him shortly. Let me just have a few words on the state of the agency. Despite COVID-19, the state of the agency is still strong. It's amazing how fast things can change, of course. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, Metro is still on track to be the transportation center of excellence in this country. We are still in the middle of the largest transportation infrastructure program in the country, and our goal is still to deliver as many projects as possible by 2028 for the Olympics and the Paralympic Games. We got hit hard by COVID-19, as the chair just mentioned. The stay-at-home orders were necessary, of course, to stop the spread, and it had a devastating impact on our revenues. sales tax, fares, tolls, advertising, all of those things. And as our chair said, an estimated $1.8 billion loss. Now, we hope to get some of that back through the CARES Act, and we are going through the process of doing that. Pre-COVID-19, Metro was seeing 1.2 million passengers per day. Right now, we're at about 450,000 a day and climbing. We got to a low of about 275, but we are gradually coming back up. We need to win back those riders, and we will when it's safe to do so. The most important thing we have to do after COVID-19, of course, is to restore the public's confidence in transit. And a big part of restoring that confidence involves safety and cleanliness for both our riders and Metro employees. For example, beginning in May, we began to require all riders on buses to wear face coverings, buses and trains. We have street teams out now that on the system handing out masks. We've installed hand sanitizer dispensers at major transit hubs. We're studying UV lights and other advanced cleaning technologies. We have sourced personal protective equipment for all employees, including bus and rail operators. We now have a 6-month supply for our essential workers of PPE. And in terms of cleaning, we are looking at some opportunities to install what's called clean copper on our buses that kills viruses very, very quickly. In response to COVID-19, Metro has convened an internal recovery task force. That task force just issued its first progress report that includes 12 early action recommendations. I'm also honored to chair the National Recovery Restoration Task Force to help chart the course for the entire industry, and we're working hard on that. These task forces are important because public transit continues to be a lifeline across LA County and around the country. We know that public transportation is also an essential tool for getting Americans back to work. And as the economy reopens, transit will move millions of workers to their jobs in all industries. America needs transit, and LA County needs Metro. So a few quick updates and accomplishments to add to what Chair Butts said earlier. Despite the profound impact of COVID-19 has on public transportation, we have a lot to be proud of over the past year. Just a few updates. The new Silver Line bus transfer station right outside of Union Station here at Patsaurus Plaza is scheduled to open this summer. We launched our groundbreaking traffic reduction study. The goal is to reduce congestion in LA County. Metro is also working to expand innovative mobility options across LA County. We launched a second year and expanded our mobility on demand service with our partner VIA. Our transit or micro transit service will be launched later this year as a Metro operated on demand ride sharing service. Micro transit helps serve communities where fixed routes are less available. Also in the past year, we led the successful creation and release of a pre-development agreement for the Sepulveda Transit Corridor. That's the first of its kind, and it positions Metro to deliver a mega project with private sector partners. Our State of Good Repair program continues to maintain and upgrade our fleet. 298 new 40-foot buses from El Dorado, 3 option buses have arrived. 259 buses are in the option order. 65 new zero emission 60-foot buses from New Flyer, 14 new electric buses from New Flyer, 3 have arrived, the others are on the way, and 185 new P3010 rail cars have been delivered and are now in service. We replaced our smartphone app with a new app that will provide better real-time bus and train arrival information for riders. We can continue to see double-digit drops in our crime rates in key categories due to our outstanding multi-agency law enforcement. In response to the COVID-19 public health crisis, we launched a new homeless outreach called Operation Shelter the Unsheltered. To date, more than 350 unhoused individuals riding the metro system have accepted bus transportation to nearby shelter beds. Metro system security and law enforcement also revamped current methodologies of reporting sexual harassment to improve response times and streamline the reporting process. We've also instituted an enhanced sensitivity training for our law enforcement partners and security officers. Our Office of Civil Rights created and launched a diversity and inclusion unit designed to serve as a point of contact for all diversity and inclusion initiatives at Metro. Those are just a few of the things that we have accomplished in the last year. Now, as I get near close, let me just touch on some of staff's priorities for the coming year, understanding that we'll hear from our incoming chair on his priorities as well. We've watched all the news, as Chair Butts was saying, and witnessed the recent tragedies perpetrated against the Black community. The death of George Floyd has sparked protests all over the world, highlighting a pattern of deaths and inequitable treatment fueled by systemic racism. It was a shock and awakened our collective conscience, and rightfully so. It has shocked the world. Thankfully, we saw at least one example where justice has prevailed. The United States Supreme Court ruled that sexual orientation and gender identity discrimination are prohibited under federal employment discrimination law. This is a life-changing decision that will afford employment protections to gay and transgender people, especially in the 27 states currently lacking such protections. Of course, we can't stop there. We must stop the killing of Black men in this country. At Metro, in the coming year, we will continue to implement our equity framework to support greater access to opportunity. Equity is about planning, about building, and about operating in a manner that removes barriers, achieves better outcomes for everyone in LA County. It requires us to better engage historically marginalized communities and others that have been left behind to ensure that our work serves them. I'm proud to report that we have hired a new executive officer for equity and race. Ms. Keandra Kyler Dodds is on board. She will spearhead many of these initiatives going forward around equity, ensuring that equity is part of everything that we do, including our Next Gen Bus initiative as well. Next Gen Bus right now is focused on COVID-19 service recovery plan. Later this summer, we will begin our public hearing process, and we look forward to that. I'm also pleased to announce that Metro recently hired its first customer experience officer, Aaron Weinstein. And with Aaron's help, we've adopted a customer experience vision statement that says our goal is to put you first, your safety, your time, your comfort, and your peace of mind when we connect you to people and places that matter to you. With that vision statement to guide us, we have plans underway on a range of improvements to speed up service in our corridors, our bus corridors, where we can put in priority bus lanes, improving the accuracy of real-time information, and enhancing cleanliness on our system. We have also embarked on, the board has approved the creation of the Seed School of Los Angeles County. It's making progress. We will break ground on that school on Vermont and Manchester in South Los Angeles. This school will be open to all youth, but with a special emphasis and focus on kids who've had experience with local safety nets, including the juvenile justice system, foster care system, and the child welfare system and low income. We will continue to focus on building and expanding the most progressive, affordable housing policy of any transportation agency in the country. This equitable, transit-oriented community initiative, where our goal is that 35% of all housing built on metro land will be affordable, and we're looking to increase that 35%. It will be affordable to households at 60% at medium income or below. To date, 2,200 units of housing have been built on metro property, with an additional 2,300 in the pipeline, including more than 1,700 units of built or proposed affordable housing. Those numbers will bring us to almost 40% of the entire portfolio that is affordable, and that's pretty incredible. There are many projects and initiatives we'll be working on in the coming year. Those are just a few. Again, our incoming board chair, Mayor Garcetti, will play a pivotal role in setting direction and priorities for the agency. But in the near term, we will be focused on leading the agency through these very tough waters of COVID-19, and I am confident that we will prevail. So as I wrap up, let me just say that despite the challenges that we have and will face, we are looking forward to the year ahead. We know many more obstacles and accomplishments are sure to come. Perhaps the biggest challenge we'll be figuring out is what is our new mobility normal? What will it look like? But we have an opportunity to shift the paradigm away from single occupancy cars and towards transit because of the drastic changes in travel habits caused by COVID-19. These include widespread telecommuting, staggered work shifts, virtual meetings, Zoom social events. All of these can help replace the need to travel and thus reduce road congestion. So let me say in closing, I believe in the mission and the value of public transit just as strongly today as ever. Even when people were staying at home during the height of the pandemic, we were still averaging 300,000 or more boardings per day. There is no doubt a lot of people depend on us. So coming out of this incredible economic downturn, there will be a need for services. People are going to come back to transit. They're counting on us to deliver, and I know we're up to the task. So that concludes my prepared remarks. And right now, I'd like to welcome our incoming board chair and a great mayor of one of the greatest cities in the world, Mayor Eric Garcetti. And I would ask that outgoing board chair Butts come up as well for the passing of the gavel and the peaceful transition of power here in LA County.
All right. Ooh, let's give a round of applause to our CEO.
What's that?
Oh. There you go. That's with him.
Mm.
Should I kneel?
I hereby bequeath this gavel with all the power and responsibility that go with it to you, as Phil said. Did you say he was the greatest mayor? And
No, he said one of the greatest cities.
oh, one of the greatest cities. Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Next to Inglewood.
Actually, you're the greatest, man.
All right, I appreciate that. But seriously, Mayor Garcetti, it has just been such an honor to serve with you over the last 5 years on this board. This has been a unique experience, and I look forward to the next year, you taking us to greater and greater heights.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Buff. Thank you so much. We can do it with gloves, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you. Let's hear it again for our outgoing chair, my friend Mayor Butts.
Sure.
I want to thank our indomitable CEO, and who is an incredible leader, not just in transportation, but in so much that we are seeking to do at this moment, which tests us all. And thank you for rising to the test that we have always put before you. Let me start by thanking actually those who are out there. First of all, the taxpayers of Los Angeles County who pay for everything that we do at Metro. Second, our customers, those who ride the system, those who invest in it every single day with your bodies, with your trust, with your care, with your suggestions, with your demands, with everything that makes you make this agency work. And then third, I want to thank all of the Metro family, not just our incredible CEO, but this is a bottom-up organization. The men and women who, in some of the toughest days of our lives, are still showing up for work, making sure that our equipment runs, making sure that the payroll is put out, making sure that the buses and the trains move. We often say figuratively in local government, we have to make sure that the trains run on time. At Metro, we literally have to make sure that the trains run on time and that they run safely, that they run equitably, and that they run in a way that will make sure that we can see our economy, which needs us so badly, move forward as well. And I want to thank Chair Butts for giving me this gavel. I'll be channeling you when I use this gavel because I intend to close out my chairmanship like you are, having accomplished big things, having been a leader for the entire county. And Metro is an interesting agency. A lot of people think of us just as a transportation agency. This is coming on the 8th year that I will serve on this board and the 3rd time that I will hold this gavel. And it hit me early on, and we've kind of adopted this, and last time I was chair, I spoke about this. This isn't just a transportation agency. This is an agency that plans the future of LA County. Does that with land use, does that with the environment, does it with our economy, all while making transportation work to move us not just on the buses and the trains, but also on the streets of the Los Angeles County cities that we all live in. And you have done great work, Chairman Butts and our CEO and all the Metro staff, to invest in a cleaner air future, to invest in a less congested future, to invest in a fairer economy here in Los Angeles County. And I'm very much also looking forward to continuing to work with all my fellow members of the board, and most notably Hilda Solis, who will now elevate to be the first vice chair, and a year from now will be taking this gavel from me and becoming the chair of Metro. She has been an inspiration and a mentor and a friend for so many years, a trailblazer for this country as well as a great leader for this county. Let me also take a moment to acknowledge the death of one of our own. We are in the midst of so many different crises at the same time, though I see them in many ways as one crisis wrapped up together. But we are still facing this pandemic called COVID-19, and we got the news last week of the first Metro employee to die of this disease. We grieve for this bus operator's family and for the entire Metro family. This is a moment which we have to contain so much pain, and yet we're called on to continue making sure that things work. The local government, transportation agencies like Metro have to keep on working. But I hope we all pause and can grieve and can feel the loss of one of our own. And let us know that these frontline workers that we thank with claps at nighttime for our medical workers, that a bus operator or somebody who is an essential worker who had to still stay at the yard to continue to make sure things work, that these are essential workers that make LA work. And please do everything you can to make sure that you wear your mask, that you do everything to maintain physical distancing, to save lives. We can only count those lost, not those that we save. But I know that there are people alive today because of the good work that everybody has done in this agency and will continue to do even as we mourn our family members' loss. So this triple threat that we face right now, of a public health threat, a massive economic downturn, and the radiant call for economic and racial justice in this country, all combine when you look at an agency like Metro. And this is a moment not to talk about the state of an agency, but our opportunity to reimagine Los Angeles County, to reimagine transportation, to reimagine fairness and equity, to reimagine what it means to have a just and fair society. This is a moment not just for us to rebuild what was lost, not to just restore passengers, but to rethink what it is that we do and the power that we have, each one of us, from a passenger to the chair of the board, to be able to take this moment and to meet it and not to miss it. It is a moment for big and bold ideas, whether it's doubling down on electrification, moving forward with congestion management, or looking at the way that we hire and promote so that we can make sure that racial injustice is addressed through every contract that we have, every hire that we make, and every way that we treat the public day to day. In my State of the City address for Los Angeles City back in April, I talked about how LA's focus on getting back to the basics was our first mission, to strengthen our core services, to enact common sense solutions, build a culture of problem solving based in data. These were the keys to our recovery from the last recession. As we've seen, when you pair good management and practical vision, you put together two things that are so important: a vision of where we want to go and the ability to get it done. Our most stubborn challenges are refracted through Metro. The hours we spend in traffic, whether we're on a bus or in a car. The way that our economy still doesn't work for enough people equally. Progress might seem slow, but progress is possible. We're at a similar crossroads to where we were over a decade ago, trying to come out of what was then the Great Recession, something we thought would be the toughest economic downturn in our lifetimes. But Metro, I believe in deeply. It is the solid foundation from which we can rebuild our county, our economy, and finally birth what a multiracial democracy looks like in this city and in this country as well. So this is a time not just to think, but to act big as well. So that solid foundation will always be grounded in three core values of this agency. One is that we are a regional and consensus-based body. We showed this with Measure M. After decades of fighting with each other, of being convinced that LA City was stealing from the outskirts or that the outskirts were stealing from LA City, we actually brought all of the different councils of government across LA County, very heterogeneous group of cities, big and small, folks from north, south, east, and west, and we said we only can ride together. That it wouldn't be about who's got the most people or who's the most political power. It is about making sure that every voice in this county is listened to. Second, based on that, we don't just do that with political leaders. This is a bottom-up agency based on the idea that local voices ensure that we're listening to all stakeholders. That has helped us move towards different buses and getting to cleaner air, the way we do hiring, the way we think about our female passengers and the experiences that they have, the way that we've looked at those passengers who don't have a home to go to at the end of the line, and the way that we have moved policies to meet those challenges. And third, and perhaps equally important to the first two, is ensuring that taxpayer dollars are wisely spent. These aren't our dollars. We have the honor of serving on this board because they're your dollars. And we want to make sure that every decision we make squeezes the most value and vision out of every program that we launch. With these three principles guiding our decision-making, we can break out, I think, from established ways of thinking, to set ambitious goals, to chart the next course for Metro. And there are three places in which I believe we need to focus and that I will bring in my leadership as chair to this agency: equity, sustainability, and reimagining the future. Let's start with equity because it is everything right now in this country. When we look, by the way, at leadership and we look at the death of George Floyd, we saw one of the most traumatic visions of this country at its worst. A police officer who put a knee on the neck of George Floyd, and he could not breathe. As he called out for his mommy, who had died, his mama, his life in less than 9 minutes was extinguished by an act of someone representing government. I think that's why it's so painful. And it evokes something that many people thought maybe this country had gone past, that we had moved beyond. But if you're Black in America, it's not just the literal knees on the neck when we see police brutality like we saw in Minneapolis. It's the economic knee on the neck of Black America. It's the educational knee on the neck of Black America. It's the economic knee on the neck of Black America. And we have a special role to look at equity, not just for Black Americans, but in this incredible place called Los Angeles, where it doesn't matter where you've come from, whether we came here and our ancestors came here willingly or in chains, whether this was our native land or whether we were immigrants here. Each one of us has a responsibility to look at inequity and to do something about it. not just to have the protests and the conversations, but to take the actions that result in the things we can be proud of. You want to see Black leadership? You've seen that here at LA Metro, where we have more Black employees than the population of Black Angelenos, where we have a CEO who is Black, an outgoing chair who is Black, where we see the vision of what America is at its best when we find the best people to move us forward and those who have the lived experience to make sure that equity isn't a hashtag, it is something that we put into the values of our actions. Metro's ridership, as our CEO detailed, declined, the least of any major city throughout the COVID-19 crisis, which means a lot of people still depended on us. Those people cleaning hospitals, those folks going to work, the public employees, the folks that were in grocery stores when we couldn't leave our homes except to get food, they were the ones who were transporting over 400,000 essential workers and Angelenos making essential trips every single day. And we've moved to provide financial relief to struggling families by slashing the cost of passes by 50%. We've kept projects moving forward because those are jobs and paychecks that can make sure this downturn isn't as deep as it might be. And in education, employment, recreation, and healthcare, we stay focused on what this county needs. But there's so much more we can do. Now at an unemployment rate that is topping 20%, the highest of our lifetimes, at one point higher than even the Great Depression. People who used to travel by car might not be able to afford that anymore. Can't keep up with the payments. They've lost their cars. We need to be there for them so they don't also lose a job as a result. That brings an urgency to our work, especially our next-gen bus plan, the first major change to our bus system in 20 years. I can't tell you how excited I've been about this. The board members have been about this, and I know the agency and riders have been. Whenever we have the opportunity to accelerate next gen, we should take steps to make the bus system better for the hundreds of thousands of Angelenos who take a bus every single day. And I'm proud to announce that as part of next gen, new bus-only lanes will be coming early July to two of our busiest bus corridors. These lanes will debut on 5th and 6th Streets here in downtown Los Angeles, which together serves hundreds of buses each day. Our investment in projects like the East San Fernando Valley Transit Corridor, which our CEO mentioned, Rail to Rail, and the West Santa Ana branch will bring new opportunities to historically underinvested communities. River to Rail. And we'll continue to leverage these projects to create jobs and apprenticeships through projects like the Purple Line Extension, Section 3, and the Gold Line Foothill Extension in 2021. And let me say something about that for a moment. I think we've led the way working with people like Congresswoman Karen Bass and previously in the Obama administration with Local Hire. We've worked with our building trades unions to make sure that we have more folks who have been criminally justice involved, who never graduated from high school, who come from disadvantaged communities can get those jobs and careers, more importantly, not just a one-off job, but careers in building the next metro system. But we've got to double down on those. And with programs like Equity Platform, the Disadvantaged Business Program, Understanding How Women Travel, and the Workforce Initiative Now, we can and we will build on this strongest record because this moment demands, again, that we meet it and not miss it. And I hope that this fall, as we look at the elimination, if it qualifies for the ballot, of Proposition 209, which has held back our ability to affirmatively act, to rewrite the injustices of the past, that we can make sure that we do this in a way that is race and gender conscious again. The evidence is clear that Prop 209 has harmed our equity goals, whether it's fewer Black students in the University of California system or the difficulty of getting small and medium-sized businesses owned by people of color, veterans, women, up by making sure that they have a piece of business that takes care of the disadvantages that they face. We've seen minority and women-owned business plummet in public agencies across California. But with Assembly Constitutional Amendment 5, California has a chance to right this wrong. And tomorrow at the Executive Management Committee, I will introduce a motion to ensure that when Prop 209 comes down, that Metro is already ready. We don't start planning then, but that we reactivate our minority and women-owned business enterprise programs and take other steps forward to strengthen our work on hiring and advancing minority and women candidates. The next area of focus that I will continue to bring together with the board is on sustainability. After this triple threat and this crisis that we face today, hopefully has steps that we take forward, we will still face one of the greatest crises of our life, if not the defining one, that of a climate crisis. And we have 1 decade, the scientists tell us, to do something about it. A decade from now, if we don't meet that challenge, it will be too late. Life as we know it will fundamentally change, from economic dislocation and mass migration to just the health indicators here in places like Los Angeles. Today, passenger vehicles are the largest source of emissions, greenhouse gas emissions in California, over 3 times more than the next biggest source. LA's Green New Deal sets very ambitious targets to reduce vehicle miles traveled by 45% by 2050 and to reduce single occupancy auto trips to 50% by 2035. We can only do this if we make transit work. It is on this agency to help get those goals through. That's why we'll take bold steps in Metro to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, electrify our bus fleet, like we'll do with full zero-emission bus operation on the Orange Line in 2021, and build transit-oriented communities to reduce vehicle miles traveled. What our CEO talked about, affordable housing, is the core of this. If we build affordable housing close to transit lines and put those together, that means people don't have to get into cars. It means gentrification doesn't happen, people aren't displaced. It means that we have sustainable communities as well as breathable air. So we need to make the 2020s the decade of climate action, and transportation is central to that. We're going to roll up our sleeves with new partnerships, set aside old ways of thinking, and focus on the world we want our children and our grandchildren to inherit. Metro and the City of Los Angeles, as one example, have forged a very strong partnership in implementing transit improvements through my Executive Directive 25, implementing a transformative bus lane on Flower Street, giving signal priority to the Expo line, but the best is yet to come. The linchpin to achieving our climate action goals is Metro's traffic reduction study. We've seen time and time again that the only way to actually reduce congestion is fair and equitable road pricing. And I'm excited to see this study begin. It's not congestion pricing, it's congestion relief that all of us will benefit from the air that we breathe, to the minutes that we are away from, or hours that we are away from our families, to the jobs that we can create. And we look forward to seeing those recommendations before I term out as chair next July. Finally, the third part of this vision is reimagining the future and building it. In the coming year, we'll continue to follow through with our current slate of projects to ensure that they remain on schedule. And I believe that in Congress, across partisan lines, we have an opportunity to finally see infrastructure investments that we have waited a long time for. That even as our sales tax goes down, which would slow down some of our Measure M and Measure R projects, that the federal government can step in and not only take care of that, but accelerate forward for the out-of-work Americans, for an economy that has been crippled, and for an environment that demands it. So we're going to take steps to put Metro in the best position possible to receive that future stimulus funding, pushing for projects to become shovel-ready, following through on the P3 program, and let there be no doubt, we will make projects shovel-ready. That was our promise to the voters. That is what we will do, and we will invite the federal government and state to be a part of that. As Washington has said, it's Metro's objective to move quickly if the opportunity for new funding materializes. And this is all about, by the way, all projects. The idea that this is going to take money from one part of the county and put it elsewhere is false. This is about the East Valley, San Fernando Valley Transit Corridor, which is nearly ready to begin. The West Santa Ana branch, which can be a powerful driver of economic recovery and bring a rail line to a section of our county that's never had it. The I-5 North project, because millions of people and goods still need to travel between North County and the Basin. It's about the longstanding priority fixes, like the 5760 interchange and the SR-71 gap. It's about the airport Metro connector, which will finally bring Metro to LAX. And it's about the Green Line Torrance extension, which is gaining steam in the environmental process. You see, when Measure M was passed with a record vote by voters, the biggest transportation measure in American history ×2, this board and this agency made a promise to deliver transformative projects. If Metro stopped advancing those projects, if we lost out on billions of dollars, and we lost out on billions of dollars of funding we weren't ready from our federal government, we would all feel deep regret in the decades ahead. And when so many people are out of work, this is a time to double down on that and to lead, as Phil Washington has done, as board members have done, on pushing our Congress and our president to sign infrastructure legislation this year. And I'm calling on also our state to match that vision too. Even in tough times, we know that this is the right thing to do for our environment. We know this is the right thing to do for our economy, and most of all, it's the right thing to do for our quality of life, to keep the California dream going. Look, it's been an incredibly challenging few months. These are the toughest times to serve as an appointed or an elected official. But as I said at the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis, we wouldn't stop working, and we wouldn't stop listening. We hear the calls for justice on our streets. We hear the suffering in our families economically. We hear the fear and the mourning from people who have lost loved ones and wonder if they're next. But we also are doing the work to address all of those things, to keep your buses clean and to make sure you can get to work so that you can save lives, to make sure that we have jobs through both Metro and from Metro to get our economy moving again, and that we always refract racial justice through everything we do in this agency and in this city. We can't return to normal. We have to reimagine the future. Take what was good in the past and say what was never good enough in the past as well. And to look at a future in which we say it will be written by us, it will be implemented by us, and it will only work if we all come together. Metro is your agency. I am your chair. I look forward to working on your vision to make sure that Los Angeles leads not only out of crisis, but forward for a fairer Los Angeles and a more beautiful America as well. Thank you, and let's get to it.
Thank you, Mayor Garcetti, for those remarks. I know I speak for all Metro staff when I say we look forward to working with you and your team at City Hall in support of your goals and the objectives for the coming year. We have a bit of time. We're going to go ahead and take 2 questions from the audience and those watching online and from the media here in the room. We have a few Metro staff members out in the audience with microphones, so if you have a question, raise your hand and one will find their way to you. Our first question comes from Christina Reyes. More than 80% of LAUSD students live below the poverty line. Are there any talks of a partnership with LAUSD to provide free rides for students and possibly discounted rides for parent volunteers or parents taking LAUSD related adult classes?
Absolutely. This is something the board has taken up, and I don't know if the board chair wants to speak to it as well, but in the city of Los Angeles, we've done this with our dash bus lines, where now if you're a LAUSD student or community college student, you can ride for free. We know the economic hardships and the fiscal constraints of this downturn and having fewer passengers, but it has to be part of our vision. I certainly believe in free transit for our students. I've talked to parents who say if I have a second grader, I can't just stick them on the bus by themselves. So I think also for those guardians and caretakers of students, but that is something that we have explored as we've already taken steps in a moment that's tough for us. We nevertheless cut our fares, as I said, in half for the passes that we have for so many families and for young people. But I would very much like to build on what we've done successfully with UPass and other things in our colleges and our community colleges and see what Metro can do to make transit free for our students as well.
We've also had a discussion about it on a global sense, because it's not going to just impact LAUSD students. If you do it for LAUSD, you have to expand it to the entire county. Mm-hmm. And so that's easier said than done. There are also other logistical considerations as to how you identify when a student's in need of transportation for school as opposed to just to ride, because no system could sustain unlimited free ridership. But it's something that's extremely important, particularly in light of what George Floyd's death has exposed as a lack of equality and opportunity that predates that event for minority children. And so this is going to have to be something that we look at holistically as a country as to how we redistribute resources to allow disadvantaged populations, disadvantaged citizens and their families to actually obtain true equality.
Very good, thank you. Do we have any questions here in the audience? Please state your name and affiliation.
Sure. I'm Chelsea Shepard. I'm with NBC4 today. Metro has a requirement that riders wear masks, and you've said that 90% of them do. What are you doing about the 10% who might not be wearing masks and who could infect other riders? And shouldn't somebody from Metro be monitoring this?
I guess that would be a Phil question.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's more like 95% that are wearing masks. You said 90. We are distributing masks. We are distributing masks. We have, from the federal government, we just got a shipment of, I believe, 250 to 300,000 masks. And so we have teams that are out there right now making that distribution, and we'll continue that.
Thank you very much. That brings us to about time. So we appreciate all of your questions. I'm sorry we were not able to get to everyone. We want to thank all of you for attending Metro's State of the Agency. I would once again like to thank Metro Board Chair and Mayor of Inglewood, James Butts. So much has been accomplished under your leadership. We will be forever grateful for your service to the agency and to Los Angeles County. To everyone watching online, we look forward to continuing to work with you, our customers, Metro staff, our stakeholders and partners. Working together, we can improve mobility and economic opportunity for the entire region. Once again, I'm Yvette Repose, Metro's Chief Communications Officer. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day and go Metro.
Go Metro.
Oh, all right. Yeah.